They talking wild, but I'm still holding ground. Mud in my veins, let the trunk shake the town. Third coast born, truth spilling out of my soul. Bump this for the real, let the rhythm take hold. A Machiavelli production. What's Gucci, my ninjas? Fuck all these clowns tryna be like me. Like me, I'm the fucking blueprint. They capping wanna be, speed of thought. I'm flowing like a river, can't you see? With each line I spit, they dreams start to flee. I'm the fire, they're the smoke blowing in the breeze. They wanna step like me, spit like me, drip like me, flex like me, but they ain't shit, they'll never fucking be me. They just wanna be like me. I'm the king of this block, got the crown, I'm the one. They study my moves, tryna steal what I've done, but I switch it up, got a new trick like shadows and awe. Marvel at the glow, I radiate, ever-changing hues, I illuminate. They wanna step like me, spit like me, drip like me, flex like me, but they can't see, they'll never be me. They just wanna be I'm like the flavor in your trap, the fit you wanna cop, but you can't get close. My vibe, my fucking pop, I'm the one they respect, the one they wanna be, but they're just chasing clout. Fuck your fake drip, step back, I'm the real deal. In this hood I kill, keep it 100. You can't match this flow, you ain't got the mojo. I'm the boss, the sauce, you're just part of the show.
What's Gucci, my ninjas? What's Louis, my killers? Probably that's only going to be relevant to people that are watching the replay. Hey, Brahma, always welcome to join if you've seen this movie. You have the link, so whenever. Boosh, my Witcher build, it's godlike. Yes. Agreed. Anyway, I've been wanting to do this for a minute. I came across this dude's, I already forgot his name. It doesn't matter. He's whoever. His review of the movie Heretic, starring Hugh Grant, nailed it, and two girls. One from Yellow Jackets. I don't know any of their names. Doesn't matter. But yep. What's weird is I don't necessarily disagree with a lot of his point because I thought the movie was okay. Hey, Poe. And it could have been better, and it felt very basic as far as the theological conversations that were going on. It's very day one, you know what I mean? You're a freshman in college and you want to be a theologian, so now you're a seminary and it's just very basic shit. But unless Brahma is going to join, we can get going. Here we go.
This is the most disappointing movie of the year. So, for you who don't know, the basic premise of this movie is Hugh Grant is playing this kooky guy that invites two.
I wouldn't say it's the most disappointing movie of the year. By the way, just feels like there's a lot of movies that come out each year to say that this is the most disappointing.
Two Mormon women, Barnes and I think Paxton. They're Mormon women that are there to convince him to join their faith, right? And then slowly they realize that something more sinister is afoot and he might be keeping them hostage and kind of putting their faith to the test in real.
Couple things. One, why are you holding it? What? I don't know why that bothers me so much. And he's getting very puffy with his, because he's holding it right to his face. I don't know what kind of mic that is.
Horrifying ways. So you see the trailer, you see this awesome performance from Hugh Grant. You go, what an interesting premise. Is this going to be one of those movies where some things could be supernatural or religious based, or they could have a logical explanation, but it has your head spinning? You know, what are they going to have to do to like get out of this situation? Is it going to be like Saw, but kind of for faith? What an interesting idea. And when I tell you that this movie does pretty much nothing more than what the trailer gives you, I'm not exaggerating. You know, That moment in the trailer where it turns out he doesn't actually have a wife that's
Oh yeah, spoilers will be coming in for anybody that hasn't seen this movie.
making a blueberry pie and it's just a candle. That's the most interesting reveal of the movie.
I will go and check on the pie.
Yep, it was a good.
You know, I watched that trailer and I was like, man, if that's in the trailer, I can't wait to see the movie. My head is going to be spinning. Going to be so many interesting questions. No, not at all. The movie ends exactly where it starts. You know, it starts with this idea of like, you know,
untrue. Does not end exactly where it starts, unless it started with with everybody being dead. It did not end the way it started.
Is religion actually real? Is there one true religion? And like, you know, or is faith just what you make it? And the movie kind of ends like that too. Like, and you spend so long in these like conversation discussion scenes between Hugh Grant and these sisters, and they are so interesting initially. And you're like, okay, surely this is all going to pay off later. You know, initially the movie starts and Hugh Grant is saying like, well, do you agree with this parts of the Book of Mormon? You know, do you agree about the fact of like men having multiple wives? Do you agree with these kind of
right? Yes. It's a fad now to hold it. It looks, oh, yeah, it does look awkward. Yeah. It was interesting that they tried to go after Christianity through Mormonism. I might be able to come on in a few minutes, but can't promise. That's no big deal. I wasn't planning on you being on here anyways. So there's that. But yeah, no, if you want to join, you can.
Patriarchal, misogynistic, problematic parts of the Book of Mormon. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so when they go down the stairs, right, when they start doing these evil tests that he has for them, you know, surely they're going to be going through room after room and test after test that is like acting out or subjecting them to the most problematic parts of their faith.
Here's his problem, because I've already seen most of this, right? Here's his problem. He watches movies like my girlfriend does. Hopefully, I don't know if she's listening, but what he has his own story that he's coming up with as he's watching it, and then it doesn't meet the expectations of the story that he has in his head. Therefore, it's a disappointment. I don't know how people do that. I don't know how you watch a movie and you're like, oh, it's one thing to see a trailer and have expectations based on that trailer, but to be actively watching a movie and simultaneously coming up with your own headcanon for the movie that you're watching is bananas to me. Just let the movie play.
And whether they can still hold on to believing that, you know, their religion is pure and for the better of humanity. That's going to be like the premise of the movie. Or something more supernatural is afoot and Hugh Grant is either like a godlike figure or a demonic-like figure who's trying to like conjure a miracle or something supernatural through them.
And all of that is based on nothing. There was no hints of that in the trailer. There's no hints of that in the movie. This is all in his head. This is what he expected it to be because this is what he wanted it to be.
Something. But no, the movie just like fucks around for like an hour. I've never seen something so disappointing. And it's just such a shame because for the first 30 minutes when these women sit down and you're slowly starting to realize, oh, Hugh Grant's a bit off kilter. He's a bit odd. These questions are incredibly personal. He's really trying to challenge them on their faith in a way that feels like bullying rather than curiosity. And you're like, where is this going? But unfortunately, it doesn't go anywhere more than that. In my opinion, this movie reveals that Hugh Grant is sinister way too early. And then from there, the movie never kind of escalates how sinister he really is. You're sort of
it does. It certainly does. I think when he says it doesn't escalate how sinister wait, hold on. Yeah, but honestly, my storyline is usually better. But that's not doing it.
Sitting there being like, oh, what could make this movie really interesting is if he's actually onto something or he's going to put them and challenge them. And like, there's this level of like genius or like kind of calculated brilliance that he has despite being so evil and cruel. But no, like it's just cuckoo man goes stabby stab. And
it's definitely not cuckoo man goes stabby stab. That is such a, just discounting everything that actually happens in the movie because it did not, he didn't turn into a demon at the end to go, blah, I'm demon man. You've been tricked this whole time. Blah.
Fortunately, I think if an hour of your movie is going to be conversations about faith and philosophy, you need to have a payoff that's a bit more interesting. Leaves me in the drive home sitting there going, oh, do you think that was real or that was fake? You know, can that be interpreted as genuinely divine intervention?
They don't have to do any of that, actually. When you say that if your movie is going to have then I need to feel like B. No. That's not how it's their movie. It's not your movie. This movie that you're wanting to come up with in your head as you're watching this other people's movie. That's not how that works.
Or like a religious experience, or are they just all delusional because they've gone mad? But no, I'm just sitting there in the drive home going like, oh, okay, it was just another sort of like generic crazy guy has two people locked in his house and they need to escape.
And I'm not alone in hoping for something big, like a big satisfying reveal, because look at this comment that was posted early on when the trailer was released, talking about the idea that maybe he has, you know, a wife that he's trying to conjure up.
Yes, I'm not alone in my made up stories that I wanted to see in this movie. Look at this rando who had his own made up story in his head from the trailer.
There's this like ritual that he's trying to do based on religion.
And again, if this was like a tight...
Hold on, actually, I want to actually read this dude's. Here we go. It's a storyline similar to the Greek mythology about the Minotaur that resides in the middle of the labyrinth. Each year they would send and use blah, 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 blah. This old guy seems like a mad scientist / inventor. And maybe he somehow was able to reanimate his dead wife. And she's now like some zombie lady who needs to be trapped inside the maze he created. Her resurrection from the dead is why he said they'd witness a miracle. He sends in people into the maze to feed her. Ah, yes, that sounds like such a better movie and something we've never seen before.
A wife
Get
that
the
he's
fuck
trying
out
to
of here.
conjure up, or there's this like ritual that he's trying to do based on religion.
Nonsense.
And again, if this was like a tight 80-minute movie that was just a well-made thriller like Strange Darling, I wouldn't be that upset about it. But the reason I'm so bothered is because, again, the whole film's marketing and the initial 45 minutes to an hour are all these discussions about like, will you choose faith? Do you believe? Are you a believer? And unfortunately, yeah, this movie just doesn't have the conviction to actually go for it and really challenge the audience and like have us questioning things that we see. So instead, it's just ends up being like a very straightforward movie, minus a few things which we will need to get into in the spoiler section. That's my spoiler-free thoughts. If you're interested in this movie, I mean, go see it. Maybe you'll disagree, but in my opinion, this is definitely a movie that you should probably wait to come on streaming and just kind of...
Well, yeah, I do that for most movies.
Like watch in the background, which I think is a shame.
I don't watch it in the background
because when you see the trailer and the poster, you think you're going to get another classic A24 profound movie.
He said the poster. Who bases their who looks at a poster like, oh, this poster? I'm seeing this movie. I get some of them can kind of grab your attention, like, oh, I want to look more into that. But I've never gone to the movie theater to see a movie based on the poster. Never.
Being a horror movie, but no.
Actually really reminds me of The Black Phone. You know, The Black Phone, the trailer was incredible and this initial premise was really exciting. And then he gets in the basement and you're like, oh, where's this going? And then people call him on the black phone and tell you exactly how the movie's going to go. And then the movie goes exactly like that. And you're like, why are we staying here for 2 hours?
Hi guys, just while I've got you, I do memberships for this channel. I would love if you could consider...
By the way, I don't remember this guy's name or his channel. Simerson?
Getting one. It really helps out
British
the channel
guy?
and helps me grow. What's included in the membership is once a week I am doing a sort of book club where I'm talking about a TV show.
Sort of a book club where I'm talking about TV shows? Sorry. That
characters kind of end the movie where they started. You know, I didn't finish the movie being like, oh, dead. Wow, you know, they've had their faith completely demolished by this evil prick of a man. I was sort of just like, oh yeah, they had a few questions at the start of the movie. They've left with a few questions. A lot of Hugh Grant's talking points and arguments at the start of the movie are very surface level things that these girls have probably heard like 40 times before.
This part I do agree with them. Like I said, it's very basic.
You're sitting there at home going,
101.
like, that's the point. Like, he's just an idiot. You know, he's...
Nope. That's not the point. The point is not that he's an idiot.
Not smart. He's not profound. And he's just, you know, rehashing talking points you could see on Reddit. And you know what? I agree. If that was the point of the movie, I would 100% agree and just go, well, that's not an issue of the movie. That's the plot. It's just a crazy man that isn't that intelligent. But the issue is, I think the movie thinks these discussions are really thought-provoking and intelligent.
That I do agree with. I do think that it was pretty basic. His critiques of religion as a whole were very like, yes, we've all heard this. It's already been discussed. It's very basic, yes.
So for a while, when Hugh Grant's starting, trying to get them to question their faith, bringing up parallels between different religions, you're like, okay, let him cook. He starts making the Monopoly analogy, and I'm like, these are interesting stories.
It's
then
a
he
bad
brings up
analogy.
Radiohead Creep and how that copied another song, and then they sued someone for copying their song, and in a way that's similar to religion. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, this is still rather surface level for anyone that has kind of like critically thought about religion before, but surely it's building to something. Let him cook, and then he sets up this idea of like, you're going to go through two different doors, one that says belief, one that says disbelief. I'm like, here we go.
Right. Yeah. And they both lead to the same place.
Not be made simply.
We're going to get payoffs to this entire conversation we've had. He's going to put them in these sick tests that put their faith to the test.
Again, I didn't think that's what was going to happen because I was watching the movie. I was letting the movie tell me what he was going to do next.
Let's say, for example, I know there's a part in old Christianity that said that I believe women couldn't use tampons or menstrual products or something, so maybe he makes like an...
I remember in Leviticus, where it was like, ye women, thou shalt not use tampons.
Awful experiment based on that.
Everybody remembers that part.
I just double checked what it was, and it's the idea that any person that's menstruating is considered unclean.
Did he say any person? Let me back that up. Give us a hair.
Couldn't use tampons or menstrual products or something, so maybe he makes like an awful experiment based on that.
All right, just to clarify, I just double checked what it was, and it's the idea that any person that's menstruating.
And what's crazy is he had to correct it because what he has highlighted, a woman who is any person. Oh, I love it. Love it.
Unclean, and anything they're touching or anyone that touches anything they have touched is also considered unclean. Like,
as again, it should be. Gross.
Tests could have been created on the really fucked up parts of these different religious texts.
How?
Or maybe he makes an awful experiment about acting out being one of 3 wives on the Mormon faith. Like, takes these.
How does he have? He has actors that he hires to play the husband and the 2 wives. How would it? The movie you have coming up with in your head, like, oh, we got to test them. Like, what do you do if you can't use tampons? How is
really confrontational parts of like classic religions and gets them to act them out?
Well, Mormonism isn't a classic religion, but that's another conversation.
I'm just spitballing here. I'm not the most religiously educated person, unfortunately.
Clearly.
Do you get what I'm saying? But no, it ends up being that like either door they pick, they kind of end up in the same place. We have a brief montage where she goes by multiple different rooms that are based on different faiths. Why didn't we get that? What an interesting idea. But no, we don't.
It's really not. Your idea is not interesting, no.
Don't get that. We don't get her going through the Jewish room or the Christian.
What would be in the Jewish room there, buddy? What would the Jewish room entail?
Room. It just feels like massive wasted potential. So again, these conversations that Hugh Grant is having where you're like, okay, a bit surface level, a bit baby's first questioning of religion, but surely this is going to build to something. It doesn't. They just go down to a room, and then it gets into this chunk about where he's trying to make them believe that there's a prophet. And he brings out this old kooky lady that he's had locked up in like another basement that's like starved and genuinely looks kind of like a zombie. And he says, this is the prophet. She's going to like die and then come back to life. So this is another section where I'm like, I'm not loving this. This feels a bit, I don't know, out of left field, a bit contrived. I was really enjoying it just being, 3 characters in a room talking about faith and how.
No, you've already said that. You can't tell me, oh, I was enjoying that whole conversation when you've already gone over, like, it was very basic. I was hoping it would build to something, blah, 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 blah. And now you're like, now this just seems contrived that the second part of this came out of nowhere. Everything you've said that you wanted to see, like, ooh, going into the Jewish room and being tempted by gold or what have you. Oh, going into the different religious rooms. Like, all of that seems, acting out if you're the 3rd wife in a with polygamy and how that would, all that seems far more contrived than what happens in the actual movie.
It's going to pay off, but fine. I'll see where this prophet thing goes. And then instantly one of these characters kind of just like spells out to the audience exactly why the prophet thing isn't real. And I just found the revelations around Hugh Grant's character incredibly disappointing. There was not one moment that surprised me or kind of like made me really like think about his motivation. And that's my issue with this movie, right? Is you start the movie and Hugh Grant comes off as a bit of a cynical asshole about religion. I saw an interview with Hugh Grant.
Yes, yeah, he did. I agree.
Saying that like he wanted the character to have a sense of loneliness. He didn't just want the character to feel evil. He wanted, you know, the character to feel like he was trying to make friends and like for a while genuinely just interested in having this conversation. And unfortunately, I think Hugh Grant does a great job in this movie, but this really is not communicated to the audience. I don't think the script does a good job conveying this.
Yeah, he's a kind of trendy academic. I don't know what the directors meant him to be, but I decided he was a cool prof. Probably rather a lonely man.
The reason I show this is I agree with Hugh Grant's interpretation. I think it's way more interesting than what we were actually given in the movie, what the script actually...
He has a Gone Girl poster framed behind him. That's
allowed him to do.
So marvelous about me as an actor is I go very deep. I decided, because you can't just be a moustache-twirling baddie.
I think the script just gives us a very one-note villain. The whole
I wonder what the poster is behind his head.
Something deeper to be revealed, something either empathetic or really disturbing and troubling, or a sense of misguidedness or something. But he's just a very one-note villain, unfortunately, despite Hugh Grant's incredible performance.
What happened to you to make you that way? So I had him down as lonely. He's one of those people who people just don't like very much, and they compensate by making a lot of jokes and pranks.
You know, very quickly he comes off sinister and like he doesn't actually want to like have his mind changed about religion. So as a result,
because he doesn't have them there. It's not a change my mind segment.
It really feels like when you're watching those like alt-right people in the Change My Mind YouTube videos, you know, where they debate unsuspecting college people and are obviously not open to having their mind changed. So anything that these college students say to these alt-right people that have these books of facts isn't actually going to change their mind. So
okay, so a couple things. One, unsuspecting. Charlie Kirk and the others who do this have been coming onto campuses for years now. One, no one is forcing them to go up to have a conversation with anyone. They're volunteering to do it themselves. And it's weird that like they're not gonna, he says they're not gonna have their mind changed and they have this whole book of facts. Like, yeah, that's probably why not, because they have all of those facts. But love
these debates don't work. And when these women,
debates do work because it opens up other people's eyes. Just because you have such a simplistic view of what those videos are or what their intention is, is so surface level. Like how you saw this movie, it's a surface level idea that you think that they are there to have their mind changed because that's what it says on the sign. So that's what they're there for. But then they don't have their mind changed because these unsuspecting college students out of nowhere are picked from the crowd and forced upon this microphone to debate facts
and have their retorts to his points, right? At a certain point, Barnes claps back to him with why she thinks his logic is bullshit. And I didn't even find her points particularly compelling either. Like both sides of the argument were just not thought-provoking, not super interesting, and really kind of disappointing. This is a movie, in my opinion, that needed a supernatural twist.
It did not.
Or a faith-based religious twist.
No, it didn't.
Genuinely think the movie would have been a lot more interesting if Hugh Grant actually was trying to conjure some sort of miracle. Or if they were able to bring some sort of like divine intervention that genuinely made him feel like, oh my God, through my like awful act.
Again, this is all your headcanon that you think would be better, but it wouldn't. The whole point of what he was doing, why he was questioning, it wasn't about religion, right? Because he believes in power being the most, like the religion, right? And so he's just trying to force his power, showing how powerful he is by forcing him into the situation that develops later on in the movie. I got it. I just figured it out. Okay, so yes, everything for him, he only can see surface levels, right? So when he sees someone change my mind at a college campus, he expects them to be there to have their mind changed. There's no more depth to it than that. It is all surface level with him.
So I've actually been able to like conjure something that can't be explained. But unfortunately, like, yes, you have that moment where after she is seemingly dead or incapacitated, Sister Barnes gets up and in her like final wind manages to kill Hugh Grant's character, right? You know, we thought she was dead after she got stabbed, and she
I didn't think she was. I've seen a horror movie before. You can
make an argument that that is meant to be that moment, that is meant to be that payoff that cannot be explained. But unfortunately, the way it's presented, it very much just felt like that thing you see in typical horror movies.
Yeah, because that's what it was.
Right, where you think,
again, I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. I thought the movie was fine. It was serviceable. I didn't have big issues with it, but I don't understand his criticism of, but the movie wasn't what I wanted. That's my British accent.
Dead, and then they get up, shoot the person, and die again. You know, unfortunately, the way it was presented, it didn't really feel like this incredible moment that like has you questioning everything you've seen.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, I didn't see Chad over here was throwing shit out here. I don't like that man's haircut. True. I thought he said old white guys. I don't know. Did he just shave everything from the forehead down? Why is there no hair on the side of his head? I have to go back and look. Gone Girl poster might be a confession. The college campus debates are much like this. The college students are not going to have the skills or knowledge to debate a pro, just like these girls didn't. It has never changed the pro's mind. Right, exactly. It is for the crowd and to plant doubt in the young person. Exactly. Yep, I said that too. I got to unsub to the old channel. As long as you're sub to the new one.
It's kind of like, oh, okay, that was convenient. Oh, now she's dead. You know, like, I don't know, man. Like, I found this really disappointing. And this prophet section goes on for so long. Like, this is a centerpiece of the movie. It genuinely feels like for 20 minutes they're talking about this prophet, and you know, you're gonna eat this poison blueberry pie, and then she's gonna come back to life, yada yada yada. And unfortunately, whenever you start actually questioning, like, oh, has he done this miracle? How interesting.
Never thought that once.
Another character then quickly goes, actually, no, you did this, and this. And this movie is just full of
Slender,
these
if you want to come,
like,
you're more than welcome to come as well.
There and listen to these conversations, and starts trying to get your head to sort of like spin and ask these interesting questions, only for 30 seconds later to be like, actually, that's not what's happening. This character's figured it out. Sorry, audience. And it's like, why not go for it? Why not go for it? Again, like, this movie just could have been so interesting. There were these moments where I was like, oh, is this like this weird purgatory that they're in? You know,
right. Yes. Another idea that you came up with in your head, and now you're disappointed because it was not that thing. Cool, bro. Like, I get that you think that your ideas are better than other people's, but try again. Okay, there it goes. Slender, you should find the invite if you want it in Bros on Film.
When the prophet was introduced, I was like, oh, this is a movie with only like 3 characters. This must be a future version of Barnes. I genuinely thought that maybe the twist of the movie was going to be they're in limbo for like sinning against the Mormon faith, and Hugh Grant is like the final test. And like, when 2 of them are knocking at the front door at the start of the movie, 2 of them are in the basement, and then another 2 of them have been in like the other basement for like 30 years.
What?
And it's just this like cycle where they're all meeting each other at different points in their life, and they need to like break the cycle somehow. Like, I genuinely thought maybe the twist of the movie was going to be Hugh Grant is like a god and they're in limbo and they have to pass all these tests. But no, and that's fine. You know, my idea was,
is it fine? It doesn't seem like it's fine. It seems like you're bitching about this movie not being what you wanted it to be.
Maybe a bit of a reach. The reason I thought that was because of the prophet, and also the butterfly at the start of the movie when she talks about reincarnation. I was like, oh, is it like a full life cycle that happens in this house? No,
that's not reincarnation.
And that's fine. You know, that wasn't the best idea. Like, I admit that. But then I was like, oh, surely when they go through the doors, the one that like believes, that goes through the belief door, is then going to do a bunch of tests that makes her question.
He's so fixated on this idea that there should have been tests. Like, they should have went in there and there should have been the ghost of a night, like, choose the correct cup. Which cup is the cup of life, or whatever? I don't know. I haven't seen Raiders in a long time, if that was even in Raiders. You get what I'm saying, though. He expects them to go in there and to have this Indiana Jones moment where they have to make the right choice to escape the room.
And the one that is more cynical is going to do a bunch of horrific tests that then makes her believe in her faith, and then Hugh Grant is actually going to let someone go. The movie is a lot more interesting when you're sitting there thinking, okay, there are actually rules that they can follow and tests that they can pass where they will be let go. You know, that is what normally makes these sort of like complex villains interesting. The idea that there is some internal logic. But then the movie just devolves into, I'm just going to stab you now.
Not what it turns into at all.
Crazy man in the basement is stabby, and all this religious philosophy doesn't really amount to anything. He's just kind of cruel and just wants to, you know, make them suffer before he kills them. Like,
so why, whatever your name is, I forgot your name already, Mushroom. Why is it that it didn't go anywhere? Because of the prophet, the prophet that came in after the other one was dead, ad-libbed on the script and messed up the entire thing. So then he had to start ad-libbing on like, well, actually, this is all a simulation, and had to go into simulation theory.
Really disappointing.
Not because that's where he wanted it to go, but because it had to go there because somebody fucked up on the script.
Circling back to my point about Hugh Grant's character, can you imagine if he did actually have a wife at some point? How interesting, right? Because obviously he doesn't have a wife, right? The Blueberry Pie reveal, you're like, okay, cool, fine. The movie gets going, but then you're sort of sitting there waiting for like, there must be something deeper to the philosophy of this movie, to Hugh Grant's character, something. But no, you know, like I genuinely was really hoping the movie was going to be him trying to prove their faith, but in a really fucked up way. Can you imagine if he...
How many times has he said that? Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you watched my movie instead of their movie? I should have used that for the thumbnail. This dude should write his own script. What he wants isn't this movie. Yeah, exactly.
Genuinely conjured up a miracle, like something that is undeniable through his awful means that
would be an entirely different movie than what we had. Sure.
Insane tests made them do the worst parts of their religion that the modern version of...
Yeah, the worst parts, you know, like polygamy and not being able to use tampons.
Mormonism has abandoned. And then they conjure something that just can't be explained, that's beautiful and like transcendent. And then they're sitting there afterwards and their faith is just completely shattered because they're like, oh, we did see something that proved our religion to be real. But
why would that shatter their faith? If, oh, we saw something that proved our religion real, my faith has been shattered.
means to get there was this horrifying shit we had to do. And yes, you can make the argument that this was technically done when Barnes was kind of revived, but to me, it very much felt like, unfortunately, the way it was presented just kind of felt like that typical horror movie last win.
Yes,
I wasn't sitting there in the theater like, oh my God, wow, what an incredible moment where all these interesting things are paying off. It just felt really silly. And to prove why this is unsatisfying is Hugh Grant, right, who ends up just being a cynic, which I thought was a boring choice and boring direction to take this character. Hugh Grant, who has been trying to convince them that miracles aren't real and religion isn't real and it's all just bullshit and control is the real religion. When Barnes stands up, he isn't even like, oh my God, how are you doing this? Wow. Oh, and then he dies. That would have made it better.
No, it wouldn't have.
That was how it was presented, right? Because she sneaks up behind him and just stabs him in the back of the head. He doesn't even know what hit him.
What? The headache couldn't keep you away?
He said something I wanted to.
Please.
I wanted to make, because he keeps talking about how, oh, it doesn't make enough sense and it would be so much cooler if he did my idea. And it's like,
yep.
I've not seen the movie, but I've gotten the whole rundown and I've watched a lot of clips and everything else. And I think the point he's missing is there's a meta commentary in this movie, and it's about religious persecution. And religious persecution, generally speaking, when you look at it real close, is totally senseless. And I think that's kind of the point they were trying to get across with this. Is like, this doesn't have to make sense. There doesn't have to be a deeper purpose or rules to follow. I mean, all the Christians overseas there that, you know, were beheaded in their own church. Like, there's no sense to that. That's stupid.
And a lot of him saying like, oh, he gets turns into stabby man. Well, a lot of that happens because his plan, whatever the original plan was, how it's supposed to play out, couldn't happen because the chick messed up on the script and said that it's not real. And so then he had to ad-lib into trying to cover up why she would have said that. So we didn't even get to see what his actual plan was. We didn't get to see it play out because it got messed up.
And that's usually what happens with religious persecution, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're not doing what I wanted you to do. Well, I'm gonna kill you now. Like, that's
true.
If the end of the movie,
all I had. I'm gonna go to bed now.
All right, brother. Thanks for dropping in.
Yeah.
Take a Claritin.
Sitting there genuinely having this religious experience, like, oh my God, you know, I was trying to prove that religion and faith is bullshit. And now this girl that I clearly killed.
Is he British or gay? Does anybody know? Can somebody answer?
And checked her pulse, which I don't think we actually saw him do, but whatever. Like, I actually confirmed the kill, right? Let's actually say he did confirm the kill, made sure she was 100% dead. Now she is alive, and she's going to be the thing that kills him. And you can see in his face that he genuinely feels like he's seen a miracle. I think the movie would have worked a lot better. At least then I could have been like, okay, there were setups at the start of the movie, and there's an interesting way to end Hugh Grant's character, right? He ends up having more faith than these two women, you know? And it's this weird kind of transference of faith, you know? The girls that came in being believers are like completely shattered and mortified, whereas he dies believing something supernatural has genuinely happened. But unfortunately, earlier in the movie, they also kind of spell this out when they say that character Barnes was, you know, technically dead before, right? She had like a medical operation where she went under.
Right.
And, you know, saw some bright lights and came back to life. And, you know, that can be like medically explained too. So it just feels like the end of this movie is just another.
So the reason why they set that up in the beginning is it has nothing to do with any of that bullshit. It has to do with the ending with the butterfly.
Example of that happening. And it's just really disappointing in my opinion. And again,
for a very simple movie, he missed large parts of what it actually is.
Circling back,
I think maybe it has something to do with him, I don't know, coming up with his own movie while watching the movie, and he missed big parts of it.
Back to Hugh Grant's character, the reason I found his death so not satisfying is, you know what, if you're going to make him like actually genuinely just evil, really make him evil. Really make me want them to kill him, want them to get away, you know, make him do some awful stuff.
He did some pretty awful things. He had women in cages, multiple women in cages for who knows how long, but that's not evil enough to kill him.
Them through these horrific tests,
probation maybe,
and just make him so maniacally uncomfortable and evil and like a really disgusting misogynistic part to him. You know, maybe he wanted to have them as his wives, whatever. But instead, unfortunately,
he just had multiple women in cages that were starving in like death. But that just wasn't enough for me to validate or to justify him being killed. He should have been been on trial, gone to court, not killed.
He didn't do enough. Very one note, despite an incredible performance, and that's why I think the wife reveal could have been really interesting.
And I'm the misogynist.
You know, or get even the fuck out of here. He used to have a wife that died, and she believed that faith would cure her, right? Like the setups are right there. I don't know why they didn't take it. Why not have Hugh Grant's character have a wife that passed away that didn't take proper medical?
This is another
God would heal her.
Part of his headcanon.
And cynical, and he needs her death to mean something. So he's trying.
I love movie reviews where most of like 90% of it is just him talking about what he wanted. It has nothing to do with the actual movie. He has barely talked about the movie in of itself. Most of what he has talked about is, I wish it was this, or I would have done that. That's not you're not reviewing the movie. You're just like, look at how smart I am. Look at the ideas I have. I'm British or gay.
To prove religion is either fake or real, and you know, just something where I'm like, oh, interesting character moment, or have me feel conflicted when they kill him. Like maybe even though he was misguided or evil, he genuinely wanted to prove a miracle to them. You know, even if it was fucked up. Can you imagine how interesting it would be if he's like, I can actually show you that your faith is real, and he genuinely earnestly meant that. But the means to do that were horrific, and they have to kill him to get out of there. But then he goes, isn't it beautiful that I was able to show you something divine? But no, it was just dumb, evil man is stabby. And when Hugh Grant was talking about the loneliness in this interview, even that's an interesting angle. Like, can you imagine if genuinely he just...
I think those are called actor secrets. Part of like when they're getting ready to portray some character, right? They have like their secret motivation or something that only they know that helps form the way that they play a character.
Really wanted to like talk to them for ages and just wanted them there forever because he loves talking about this stuff. And yes, I'm not saying make him likable or redeem him, but just something more interesting.
Well,
so
you did
when
say
he's
that earlier.
dying, I feel a bit icky or a bit conflicted or like, oh, what a shame you're a fucking nutcase. But instead, it's just so one note. And yeah, he just tries to stab them and they have to stab him and then they get away. I just thought the movie just had so many interesting ideas. Like, watch that trailer.
All of the ideas that you thought were interesting were your own ideas.
Genuinely watch that trailer and let your mind wander as to where this movie could go, and it just does nothing interesting. The first 45 minutes to an hour, I'm like, awesome. The last hour of this movie, I was just staring at a screen. I felt like I was in a nightmare. I was genuinely like, oh no. Oh no.
Oh no, this isn't what I wanted. Oh no, this isn't my idea.
Oh no, I don't even know why A24 said yes to this, to be honest. The only thing that felt a bit A24-ish was the beautiful credit design at the start of the movie where it was like around the borders. But aside from that, I even found the movie visually...
I love that. Defining a studio with, oh, but the credits, those were A24. Imagine you work at A24 and look like this guy. Oh, the memories. What, Hugh Grant? I never looked like Hugh Grant. Anyway, what was I saying? It was more important. Oh yeah, A24, like, well, guys, we didn't nail the movie. It doesn't have that A24 feel, but the credits though, we nailed the credits.
Rather disappointing, flat and clunky. Like, it was a well shot and well composed movie, but there weren't too many shots that made me go, whoa, that's super cool. And then when they go in the basement, it's...
Yeah, where are all the wonders? This movie had a lack of wonders in it.
Really dark, and not in like a super interesting way, the way the Batman was. It's genuinely just hard to see and looks kind of shitty and disgusting.
It was
and
fine.
At a certain point, I was kind of ready to leave the movie. I was really almost like offensively disappointed with this movie. And the reason I'm so disappointed is because, yeah.
Because it wasn't my ideas. That's why I'm deeply disappointed, because they didn't do what I thought they should have done.
I just think this movie could have been an incredible discussion about faith. There are so many movies, like horror movies, right, that have religious aspects that have you sitting there afterwards going like, was that real? Was that not real? Think of Martyrs, right? If you've seen Martyrs,
never seen Martyrs.
A question at the end of that movie after all this suffering as to whether they were actually able to pull off something that was genuinely transcendent. And as a result, after you finish the movie, even though most of it is just like torture and pain, the thing you're left thinking about is like, oh my God, what was the final thing that was said? What does that mean? What does that ending mean?
I think what he likes is movies that have enough ambiguity to where he can make up his own stories because he is better than them.
And it's been discussed for like 15, 20 years ever since that movie came out. Similarly, right, I think A24's The Curse, one of my favorite shows of this year, really explored that well, where there are things that can be explained, but not quite, you know, it's like, oh, I guess that could have a logical explanation, but it's just so uncanny. And then the ending of that show takes it into this other level where you're like, oh my God. And I just feel like Heretic, it had all the pieces, you know, it had all these great ideas where it's like, just bring it home. And I was
bring it home with my ideas.
Sitting there for so long being like, okay, as long as the ending's good, something has to happen. Whether it's like so dark and not supernatural, but he's just so evil that it's like a gripping thriller and I'm really rooting for them to get away, but that didn't happen. Or genuinely bring something that is like confrontingly like, yeah, supernatural or faith-based and have me go, oh my God, but no. They didn't do that. And there are just so many movies that do. You know, Red State is another great example where there is a religious component to that movie.
I'm a big fan of Red State. I think for all of Kevin Smith's fault, I actually really did like Red State. It is probably like my second favorite of his movies. The first obviously being Dogma.
And the evil people are these religious nuts that are killing innocent people. And then there's this moment towards the end of the movie where they're like, wait, were they onto something? I'm not going to spoil how that movie ends, but you're sitting there going, oh my God, where is this going? And yeah, unfortunately, I just felt like this movie lacked a bunch of clever little things that had me sitting there going like, wow.
It's odd that he liked that movie, the ending of it, because at the end, I'll spoil. I don't give a shit if you haven't seen Red State. You should see it. They give themselves up, right, because they hear the horns, and it does leave a little bit like, oh wait, what is it? And then it cuts to what's his name from Roseanne doing an interview. He's like, oh, the horns, yeah, that was the neighbor kids that were growing pot. They were just fucking with them and happened to do the horns at that same time. Now, Kevin Smith has talked about how originally he wanted wait, is this guy a producer from the Weird Do Better show you watch? I have no idea what that is, bro. Anyway, it originally Kevin Smith was talking about how like an angel would come down and kill him at the end or whatever, and then get shh to the screen, which that would have been interesting as well. But I'm just surprised that he actually liked it, because that ambiguity of whether or not that really happened or not is shown not to have really happened immediately following the scene. So you didn't leave going, oh, did that really happen? Oh, did it not happen? No, they tell you it didn't immediately.
Wow, that was so well done. Again, even Hereditary, right? If you've seen Hereditary,
haven't seen it.
There are all these moments
where I don't think him and I watch the same movies at all.
You're like, oh my God, all of this was preordained. All of this was set up. These things that felt like
Wait,
tragic incidents and tragic accidents, like were actually planted by this divine presence that was watching over this family. How haunting and tragic. But no, this movie, none of that.
Right, because it's not those movies. It's this movie.
That just two girls show up to a house and a guy mansplains religion for 30 minutes.
Mansplains religion to these two girls. Mansplains? You mean explains? Just explains.
And then, you know, makes them go through doors that ultimately don't matter, and then tries to kill them after fucking about. And yeah, just all of these conversations, every single time I found one interesting, then the way it ended was not interesting. You know, like they'd have these conversations, and then one character would be like, that's not true, and I know that's not true, the end. And you're like, oh, okay. And then they introduce the prophet, and you're like, oh, interesting. You know, when she gets back and she goes, oh, I think the prophet moved after he killed her, after she ate the blueberry pie. I'm like, oh, where's this going?
It showed you where it was going.
And she just kind of explains to him exactly what he did, which ends up being true.
Like, showing the body double of the prophet was just so disappointing. Like, I would have loved to finish the movie being like, did he actually conjure something? No. And they double down on it. You get the explanation from her, and then it visually confirms it for you. And it's just like, okay.
Then at the end of the movie, you have this moment, this really interesting moment with like the key and the buy clock. And she goes, you want me to think that this is actually like divine intervention, but you obviously did this intentionally because you always wanted me to be the final girl, yada, yada, yada. And you're like, okay, thank you for explaining all that. Now I have nothing to think about on the car ride home.
Oh, damn it. Why did this movie explain what was happening, and why am I doing, and why everybody's their motivations and what happened? Why did the movie tell me what happened? Why did it show me what happened? Why wouldn't it just be like, did it happen? And let me come up with a better story in my head. Fucker.
And again, my big issue with the movie is I know a lot of you are probably going to sit there and say, hey, Marshall, like he was meant to be an idiot. He was meant he was not meant to be an idiot. I don't know where this is coming from, that, oh, he's just an idiot. Please explain, like give some receipts on him being an idiot. To be the bad guy. He wasn't meant to be that deep. But I disagree. I think the movie thought these conversations were really interesting and really profound. And I've seen all these reviews being like, yeah, this is one of the best scripts of the year. And I'm like, no, not at all. This feels like just the conversation you have when you're 13 and you're first exposed to the fact that, hey, a lot of these religions have similar ideas. How wacky. Well, they can't.
You know, as all 13-year-olds do, they those deep religious conversations that they have. I get what he's saying, and this is the only part I agree with him. I don't think the conversations were as deep as what people made it out to be, but I don't think the movie's intention was that either. It was just that step to his next step to his next step. And then that was all undone because homegirl didn't stick to the script when she was the prophet or whatever.
52 religions, blah, 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 blah. It's mansplaining. But again, the amount of time...
It's mansplaining. Wait, what was that? Hold on, let me go back. Kiss a hair.
Yeah, this is one of the best scripts of the year. I'm like, no, Not at all. This feels like just the conversation you have when you're 13 and you're first exposed to the fact that, hey, a lot of these religions have similar ideas. How wacky. Well, there can't be 52 religions. Blah, 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 blah. It's mansplaining. But again, the amount of time and focus
what is mansplaining?
they spent on these conversations and the way it's directed as if it's like lofty and weighty and profound is the reason this movie doesn't work, in my opinion, because it clearly wants you to ask these questions. Similarly, right, I've seen multiple reviews reference this conversation about Magnum condoms at the start of the movie.
I don't even remember
like
what
really
that conversation was.
Profound, and shows how like some people can have faith and some people don't. And it's like, no, it's just marketing. And you can literally check whether Magnum condoms are larger than normal condoms or not by just getting a ruler and checking.
It's just marketing. Does he think that was a in-movie ad for Magnum condoms?
You know, like this isn't actually a good allegory for the disbelief versus belief argument that has been explored in this movie at all. Like it's actually not very good. It's not very smart. This is very first draft material, in my opinion.
Like, honestly, it's like me comparing buying an Apple fast charger because the advertisement says it charges my phone 40 minutes faster than the other chargers, and me getting into a van with like a child predator because he offered me.
What? Hold on. Maybe I missed it. Wait. It's like him comparing getting a Apple charger because it claims to charge the phone 40% faster is the same as getting into a van with a child predator.
In my opinion.
Like, honestly, it's like me comparing buying an Apple fast charger because the advertisement says it charges my phone 40 minutes faster than the other chargers, and me getting into a van with like a child predator because he offered me candy and a puppy, and instead all I get is like trauma for the rest of my life.
Instead all you get is a dick. Sorry.
They are actually different, all right? Like,
yes, those two things are very different. I don't know what that has to do with the movie, with them talking about the Magnum condom thing.
Don't give me this shit. Also, the conversation's just stupid. Just Google it. Just Google it. Just check. Hey, are Magnum condoms actually bigger, or is it just marketing? The end. End of discussion. Like, this isn't... Stop it. And the reason I say this is because, yes, you could make the argument that the movie doesn't think this is that smart, but all these, like, video essay YouTube bros on YouTube...
Oh, man, these video essay YouTube bros, unlike me that's doing this video essay.
Like, yeah, this is like a really interesting point that highlights the themes of the movie. And I'm like, no, it's stupid, don't.
The first piece of dialogue was about the size of the contraception Magnum versus all of the other ones. Both Paxton and Barnes had different views on it and consumed the message of its marketing completely differently. Something that had no relevance to religion, but it showed word of mouth with Barnes' sister telling her about them versus the marketing message, which was what Paxton had experienced. They had two different messages from two different sources, and at its most basic form, that is essentially what the film was about.
Actually a conversation to introduce us to one of the underlying themes of the film, which is how deception and manipulation can be used to persuade and confuse people, making the girls question once again if the things around them that they are being told are true or not.
Also,
now tie that back into your, it's like me buying a charger that charges my phone 40% faster versus me hopping into a van with a predator for candy and a puppy. How do you do this? Good Lord. I think this guy likes to measure guys. Yeah, that would be nice.
Another great idea, right? Can you imagine how interesting it would be if Hugh Grant had like insane knowledge about these two girls? Like they thought they were going to a random house, and
you're talking about another movie,
dead dad.
Not this one.
He knows all these intricate details about her medical history. He knows that she has the birth control implant. Like these things that are impossible for him to know. Can you imagine how unsettling that would be if he knew all these disturbing things, if he knew, you know, about the conversation about the porno at the start of the movie, how effective and unsettling that could have been. Like, give me...
Honestly, I would have more problems if that was the movie we saw. Like, how is he eavesdropping on them on this conversation on their way to his house? Your ideas are worse than what was in this movie.
Something to think about. And even if you could find a logical explanation, like at the end of the movie, there's all this like Facebook stalking he'd been doing, or like he had something planted on them from like ages ago.
Something planted on them? He had like a one of those those AirPod, what are the air tracker things? I don't know. Air tags?
Like, just a little bit for me on the drive home to go, oh, wow, how interesting. Because as a result, the way this movie was presented, I just got in the car and went, oh, what a disappointment.
Oh, what a disappointment. It wasn't the movie that I wanted it to be. My God.
The only thing I was thinking about is how disappointed it is. And look, as far as the ending goes, no, all right? Paxton did not die, and then the final chunk of the movie is imaginary. No, she did get out. I took the butterfly at the end as like, she can see the butterfly because it felt like it was framed from her POV. And then it cuts to a more objective POV, and we can see that the butterfly is not there. I took that as she still has faith, even if us, the audience, don't, you know, showing that the butterfly isn't actually there, but she believes it to be there.
That's not what it was, dummy. This is how you missed this whole thing. All right, it ties back to when you're dying, your synapses, your synaptics, or whatever they're called, are like firing off, trying to ease your suffering because you're about to die, which can cause you to have hallucinations like seeing a bright light, seeing this, seeing that. It was the movie showing us that she's dead, that she is dying. She is not long for this world.
However, you could easily take it the other way and say that the fact that the butterfly is shown to almost like leave and not be there anymore is the idea that she has a little bit of faith, but she now questions it. Or the
nothing
butterfly
to do with that.
is a representation of her faith leaving. But
it's amazing for someone that had such great ideas for a movie that isn't this one. You missed this movie entirely. It may have something to do with the whole time you're sitting there, you're thinking, oh, mate, wouldn't it be better if they did this instead? And then someone has to explain to you, no, this is what you missed. You missed this whole part because you were in your head trying to come up with a different movie. Not that I have experience doing that, but you watch movies like a chick. That's all I'm saying.
I just don't think the movie was interesting enough for me to particularly care or find that a particularly profound ending, unfortunately. I didn't like this movie. I've really been a fan of a lot of movies lately. I've given a lot of movies a pass, defended a lot of movies that other people have shit on, found it incredibly disappointing. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed.
Sorry, I don't remember his name or his channel name, but it wouldn't be worth it. I promise you. Where's his Zendaya poster? Right? Of course, you should. Let's see. There was one I wanted to one comment. Where is it? Eric, isn't this way better than F and T? I don't even know how it would even be in comparison to Friday Night Tights. Two entirely different things that are happening. But yeah, I agree. Get him on the show. Sure, I mean, he's more than welcome to come on the show. Don't know his name. I'd have to look it up. I guess I could look it up. Okay. Hold on. Let me look it up. Just looking it up. Oh, Marshall Stannis is his name. He's on YouTube. So if you want to check him out, I guess just Google Marshall Stannis. Just before Mad went back. How was I misogynist? Oh, you watch movies like a chick. Okay, that's true. I have another video I'm thinking about MADFAPPING. If you want to join, Brahma, it's from Wisecrack. It's about, what was it called? Americans invented a new Christianity. And here's why. That's terrifying, from Wisecrack. I think it's something that you would really want to MADFAP with me, Brahma. If you have the time, let me know. And I'll wait for that. And so if he joins or not, we'll do that one. If not, I can save it for another day. I got a whole list of movies I wanna MADFAP eventually. A lot from Wisecrack. Those people are idiots. At least that one guy is. The main dude. I'm just waiting for some people to go to bed. I do. Oh, okay. I don't know how long that's gonna take. We can always just start it back up. So we'll just retitle this part 1, and then we'll start part 2 when Brahma comes on and wants to MADFAP with me. So we'll do that. So we'll end it here. Be on standby for part 2 whenever we start that up. Here we go. Here's the outro. Thanks for hanging out. For those that
A Machiavelli production.
This is now Mr. Kansas Law Dog. Law don't go around here. Savvy? Yeah. Yeah, that's real good, Law Dog, because law just don't go around here.
They keep on calling me, want me to put it down. Oh, baby, run to me, don't go from smile to frown. Hey, law dog, law don't go around here. And I say, hey, law doggy, law don't go around here. You're no daisy at all. And I say, hey, law doggy, law don't go around here. You're no daisy at all.
I want you to know it's over.